Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Low-Code BPM Starts Here. We're really excited about this webinar. It's an amazing webinar we have for you today with some really spectacular guests. We'll be speaking with Clay Richardson, a leading Forrester analyst, and we'll be talking with Mindy Foyer and Mark Rausch of Harris CapRock on their implementation of a BPM solution with PNMsoft. And we'll be seeing a demo of a low-code BPM software from our CTO, James Luxford. So it's a really packed agenda. We're really happy to have you with us today. And I'm Ellie Stutz, Head of Knowledge and Collaboration for PNMsoft. I encourage you throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, to enter them within the Go to Webinar questions widget. So we'll address them at the end of the webinar. And to start it off, before we go to Clay, we're just going to post a short poll question for everybody. So let's just launch that poll. Just take a minute to give your answer to this poll question. Okay, 10 more seconds. And we will close it off now. And I'll just share the results with you. Okay, so that question being, what is the most important quality of a BPM solution? And I guess the 30% saying the ability to create applications quickly, then followed by ability to change applications easily and end user experience. So that's great, and that ties into the theme of our webinar. So I appreciate your answers there. And we go back now to the main part of our webinar and our very special guest. I guess before we go right there, I'll just tell you what the agenda is today. We're going to go to Clay in a second to introduce the concept of low-code BPM. Relatively a new concept and one which is really, I would say, having an effect on the market. We're going to then listen to Mindy and Mark on Harris CapRock, and they'll talk about a case study. And then we'll be going to a demo of Sequence Low-Code BPM with our CTO, James Luxford. So now I'm going to pass the mic over to Clay. Clay Richardson of Forrester. Thank you very much for being with us. I'm just going to make you the presenter right now.
Okay. Good morning to everyone joining us from around the world. And this morning, as James outlined, we're going to talk about a new trend we're seeing in BPM and really across app dev. And that trend is focused on the need to quickly create apps. And really, it's more of a need to deal with an overwhelming number of apps that need to be built that we're seeing. And so, let's go back here. There we go. So we're referring to this trend as low-code BPM. And when we started looking at this, it really came around a year and a half ago. But as we've gone through this transition from focus on the internet and really focus on workflow and managing information and the flow of information into what Forrester refers to as the age of the customer, we saw a shift in terms of how companies were beginning to use BPM platforms and how they were thinking about BPM. And I did a quick intro, but as my name is Clay Richardson. I'm with Forrester Research, as was introduced a little bit earlier. But I've been around BPM in the BPM field for the last 15 years, and we've seen it go through different changes. And when we look at the role that BPM has played, it's really gone from being a focus on process reengineering, back office optimization, to now more of the focus is on engaging, using processes to engage customers, to actually make it more convenient for people to get tasks done. And a lot of that focus is around being able to quickly build what we call process apps. And so when we ask companies what is their most important initiative over the next 12 months, and this is at a macro level, so when we ask business leaders, what are they investing in, a big part of it, of what they're focused on, is growing revenues and improving the customer experience. So this is where I was saying before, this emphasis on customers or competitive advantage being around customer experience is becoming more pronounced. So we can see 60% of business leaders are now prioritizing revenue growth and improving the customer experience. And where we saw BPM historically focus was around cost reduction. If you look on the right, 15% of companies, of business leaders, named cost reduction as their number one initiative. That doesn't mean that cost reduction goes away, right? We're still seeing 15%. It just means the pendulum is swinging more towards expansion, growing revenues, and putting customers at the center of business processes. And so when we drill in even further, even deeper, to try to understand how are companies thinking about redesigning their business processes, right? And so this is a question we've been asking for the last 3 years in an annual survey that we put out. And in this question, we wanted to understand how critical a priority is it to redesign, reinvent business processes for mobile and for innovation. And we've seen this number steadily creeping up. If you look here, 42% of companies now place critical or high priority on redesigning their processes, their business processes for mobile engagement. What does that really mean? It means building apps that can take processes that may normally be inside of the organization, more operationally focused, taking those apps or those processes and extending them out through different apps and different channels, through social, through mobile. And so that does require a bit of redesign, but it also requires getting these new apps out at speed. And so we see BPM, what we historically looked at as BPM or traditional BPM, beginning to play a broader role in digital customer experience. That's these new apps, these new channels that processes have to be accessible over. And so when we look at this in digital customer experience, a big part of the focus is digitizing the end-to-end customer experience, digitizing products and services, and creating trusted machines. And what that means when we say trusted machines, it means systems, processes that customers can engage with, where the customer can trust the advice or the recommendations that the process is giving them, right? So that's a big thing, right? This, if you extrapolate this, it's sort of like the driverless cars, right? How many of us trust driverless cars at this point? Very few, right? Probably Google being the main one, that are a group of people that trust driverless cars because they have a vested interest. But the idea here is processes have to embed more intelligence to become trusted when they're recommending what to do, what to buy, and how to get work done, right? But the key here is not just looking at how processes impact the digital customer experience. We're now beginning to look at the role that BPM and process plays in digital operational excellence. So it's the behind-the-scenes activities that really begin to impact that customer experience on the other side that we need to focus on. And that's where BPM really has an opportunity to play, has an opportunity to shine. And if we look at this, some of the key capabilities around where BPM is playing in digital operational excellence, the primary focus and shift we see for BPM is around driving rapid customer-centric innovation. If I go back to the poll, or if we go back to the poll, 30% of the people in the audience that took the poll said quick apps was a top priority for them around BPM, being able to build apps quickly. And we see this when we talk to customers also, is this need to drive rapid customer-centric innovation where you're testing out ideas, testing out new processes in the field, and then being able to support innovation with technology and prototyping. So being able to do this sort of rapid prototyping around processes and supporting creating new innovative ways to engage customers and extend processes out is critical. And so, as I mentioned, about a year and a half ago, I embarked on a journey with one of my colleagues over in the app dev part of Forrester. He's an app dev researcher named John Reimer, and we both were seeing these trends around just companies struggling to move at digital speed, to change how quickly they got apps out. That need for speed was always there, but what we were looking at is the customer, putting the customer at the center of the organization really changed the dynamics of speed, because it's not just about let's figure out what we need to do and build it quickly. It became more around, well, we don't even know what we need to do, so we need to go out and experiment, discover the requirements, and then be able to iterate rapidly based on that customer feedback, whether it's apps, whether it's trying out a new service, building out a new functionality, new ways to engage. And so when we did the research, the first round of research on low-code, we ended up interviewing about 25 or so different companies that were adopting these new practices for speeding up delivery and using new platforms. And when we walked away, initially we didn't call it low code. We called it something like systems of engagement platforms, because we felt like that was a key piece. But when we walked away from the interviews and we stepped back, we started seeing a picture of companies adopting platforms to reduce the amount of hand coding to speed up delivery. And so that was the first part of the definition of low code, this emphasis on rapid application delivery with a minimum of hand coding. But the other part that we saw was the need for quick setup, or sometimes we refer to it as fast ramp, the ability to quickly ramp up, train, learn the platform to be able to do development. And usually this was for systems of engagement, where it's environments where a customer or an employee is working and need a quick way to get things done, right? So not going into the large package application that may be difficult to work with, but usually for these front-end engagement systems, right? And so that's the definition of low code. Our official definition is around the speed to deliver, reduce hand coding, this fast ramp, and engagement. Right? Those are the four key themes that define low-code platforms. And we played with the term zero code, but when we looked back at the interviews, with the companies we interviewed, very few, I would say only maybe one or two, said we didn't have to code at all, right? What we found is when we look back at the interviews, the majority of companies said we can do 80% of the development of the application without coding using this platform, but maybe another 15 to 20% we have to do some coding, and we really need to integrate it with some of these back-end systems, right? So that's the definition for low code. If we look at how low code is different from traditional BPM, or what I refer to as legacy BPM, with legacy BPM, we're really focused on, we usually focused on delivery cycles of months and quarters. When we look at low-code platforms, it's really about days and weeks. So some of the companies we spoke with, interviewed, they were emphasizing this ability to quickly roll out a new concept or test out a new idea in days. So it's going down, right? Instead of months to days and weeks. Releases, we're moving from, in legacy BPM, quarterly, doing a quarterly update, quarterly release, to being able to do continuous delivery in weekly cycles. And then the methods, this is very interesting because in legacy BPM, we see where most teams using legacy BPM platforms, focus on water, scrum, fall. So some form of agile, but it's really more around defining the requirements, doing iterative development, and then doing testing and delivery. When we talk to companies that were using these low-code platforms and adopting low-code approaches, they talked about test and learn, right? We had a couple of interviews where a chief innovation officer in one interview just highlighted that they had to build a new application. This was for an insurance, a life insurance company in the UK. They had to build a new application to test out the idea of launching a new product. And they just needed to build it out in a very short period of time, a few days, put it up, test out whether they would get hits. They were just trying to validate whether this idea had legs, right? And so it's really about test and learn. You may not even go further after deploying the app because you don't get validation, right? So that's where we're seeing these low-code platforms really play a role. And then the adoption moves from community support with legacy BPM or even proper training where you have to go off and get trained for months. In low-code, it's about intuitive now. The development and design environment are intuitive enough that people can go through a couple of days of training or even do video training and watch a couple of videos and be able to get started. So it sounds like pie in the sky, definitely for someone coming from the legacy BPM world, because we've heard that all along. But what we found with these low-code platforms, they do offer the ability to get started quickly, ramp up fast, and deliver applications very, very quickly. And so the way that they do this is really, there's 6 ways that they speed delivery, low-code platforms. It's really about having visual tools, right? Being able to drag and drop, having that modeling environment for modeling the process, modeling out the business logic, modeling out the data, also discovering true requirements and real value. So being able to go off and discover the requirements as opposed to already having requirements defined is a way that it helps. So you don't spend as much time up front trying to figure out all the requirements. And in some cases, you may have to, but the value of the low-code platform is that they don't force you to go and understand the requirements 100%. Live trialing new ideas, we talked a little bit about that with the insurance example, and deploying and scaling apps quickly is another piece. Being able to deploy the app, then over time, as you get more users, being able to scale it up, have the right design, right infrastructure in place. And then generating mobile apps from older legacy apps. So being able to quickly take a legacy app, put a mobile interface in front of it, and extend it out without having completely redesigned the original app. And then empowering you to use developers that you can afford, right? So instead of having to get developers that have been trained and certified on a larger BPM platform, gives you the ability to find developers that maybe one thing we heard with developers fresh out of school that had some background but maybe didn't have as much experience being able to begin using these platforms. And so when we look at low-code tooling, it really covers the different tiers for both mobile and web that we're seeing evolve. So being able to support virtual data at the services tier, having the ability to model out process and flow, the ability to build out responsive e-forms, and then being able to deploy to multiple channels, right? But low-code also enables chaos, and so we see this a lot, right? Customers that we speak with, dozens, one customer we spoke with had thousands of apps built with a single low-code platform, but only a fraction of those apps actually actively used, right? Integration points is another challenge. Apps that can grow big over time and be hard to maintain. And when we look at this, the key is balancing fast delivery with sustainable delivery. So not just when you adopt the platform, don't just think about, oh, we're going to build very quickly. You also have to think about things like hyper-adoption. What if the adoption of this app goes wild? You need to think about the architecture and the ability to scale out from an enterprise standpoint. and also putting in place design best practices and having at least a basic application lifecycle management outlined or process defined. So you want to balance these two, fast delivery, but you want to also look at sustainable delivery. So these are some of the use cases that we uncovered through the research, and this is a good tool to use just to identify what is the driver or the scope of the application or set of applications you're trying to build, and then you can use this to figure out which tools actually, which vendors actually is the best fit for you. And just to wrap up, the last thing we found with low-code is we did not see where low-code was targeting or really widely used by citizen developers, right? We saw it primarily used and having the greatest impact to speed up development for developers, right? Regardless of where the developers sit, developers in the business, developers out that are in IT, but it's really the sweet spot for low-code was around this blue box space, right? The coders, rapid devs, app pros, apps pros, and process pros. And then we saw some citizen developer, but it was really at the fringe. And if you do have citizen developers using low-code platforms, then it's important to put the right governance around. So going back to that sustainable development, sustainable delivery, you want to spend time scoping what use cases the low-code platform should be used in. And so with that, I want to hand it back for the next part of the webinar.
Well, thank you very much, Clay Richardson of Forrester. That was really eye-opening, and I will make myself the presenter now.
Go for it.
Okay. All right. So Clay, really an amazing overview of the concept of low-code BPM, and we've been seeing those trends with our clients. Just a little bit on who we are. We're PNMsoft. We provide world-class BPM software and solutions for mid-sized to enterprise organizations. Our BPM suite, it's actually an intelligent BPM suite, is Sequence, and it's the leading Microsoft-centric IBPMS among many analysts, including Gartner and others. And our own people are customer-centric. They're BPM experts with many years of experience in automating processes and streamlining processes for some of the largest companies in the world. So that is it's a little bit about who we are. And now we're going to go straight to one of our customers. That is Harris CapRock. Harris CapRock provides satellite communication solutions, and it's a major company based in the U.S. And we have with us two people from Harris CapRock, two key players. We've got. I'm sorry, we have a little typo there. I'll just take that out. Okay. We've got Mindy Foyer, who is a senior strategic engineer at Harris CapRock, and she's with us live. And we have actually, we spoke earlier with Mark Rausch, who is the director of applications development at Harris CapRock. And Harris CapRock is using PNMsoft's BPM technology to implement and optimize some of their key company processes, including inventory management and customer requests. So we're going to go right now to Mindy. Mindy, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So, Mindy, the first question is, can you tell us a little bit about Harris CapRock and the services it provides?
Sure. Harris CapRock provides managed communication services to the energy, government, and maritime markets, utilizing satellite, wireless, and terrestrial networks. We provide end-to-end turnkey solutions that include network engineering and design, procurement, installation, and commissioning, and 24/7 support. The bulk of our customers are located in areas that are typically not serviced by traditional telecommunication services, such as the middle of the ocean. Satellite communications tend to be the most viable solution for these customers. My team's responsibilities are associated specifically with delivering the satellite bandwidth to our customers.
Okay, and what was Harris CapRock's challenge around inventory management and customer requests, and why was the existing system not sufficient?
So as I said, my team is tasked with delivering services to our customers, and this is usually under some pretty tight deadlines. This includes both designing the circuit based on the information contained in the ticket to managing the inventory that we use to deliver the circuit. This means we're dependent on receiving accurate and technical and commercial data to engineer circuits and update our databases. At Harris CapRock, things are never static. We are advancing both our technology and our internal processes. New technology mandated an update to our data forms to handle new data fields to support that technology. Since the legacy system was ticket-based and not process-based, it was also designed to work with a particular process. Those processes had changed several times, and the legacy system was out of step with our internal processes.
Okay. Now, can you please just, I'm sorry, did you want to add something?
Just that the legacy system itself was cumbersome, it was inflexible, and we had gotten to a point where we were really looking at overhauling the entire system. And when we looked at doing that, we realized that we'd wind up being in the same position come another couple of process changes and some technology changes. So we really had to stop and think about what we wanted to do going forward.
Okay. So in that case, could you please describe the BPM solution that Harris CapRock built to answer these challenges?
So we built a solution to manage all of these service requests that are requested from my team. We now have, each process has an individual workflow process that maps in the system. There are a total of 9 separate workflows, each designed to map a specific workflow process. There are 3 pre-sales queries used to request inventory and pricing information for proposals. There are an additional 3 requests to manage post-sales requests for active customers. And in addition, we have 1 for managing our contracts. The flexibility of Sequence Kinetics forms provided immediate relief to the issues we were having with our forms not supporting the appropriate information and data that we needed to actually do the job that needed to be done. But beyond meeting some of the original challenges, we were able to implement a master ticket concept that was previously impossible in the legacy system. The master ticket allows us to create a single master ticket to consolidate the history for a specific site. Bringing up the master ticket shows a list of all the services and workflows that have been executed for that particular site. Given the complexity of the activity on each site, this actually saves us a tremendous amount of time when doing research for new installations. Instead of having to look up several individual tickets and hunting them down, the history is consolidated into one space. Great.
So can you give us an idea about how many, approximately how many customer inquiries Sequence handles per month? And then I guess if you can address how important that is and how important the solution is for Harris CapRock.
Okay, so we've rolled out Sequence Kinetics, our solution, to about 125 internal customers. These customers consist of our project managers and other operational staff. As it said, it manages 9 workflow processes, and all of these processes handle about 300 inquiries a month. The tool itself helps us manage an important piece of the Harris CapRock organization. We manage a very large inventory of satellite bandwidth. As in any company, a well-managed inventory can make a significant impact on the bottom line. But more important, we built the tool with Sequence that manages search workflows used to deliver a major component of our turnkey solution. Timely, accurate data delivered now available to us via the Sequence solution is critical to the timely and accurate delivery of service to our end customers.
Great. Now, if you could just, I guess, sum it up, what are the main benefits of this solution for Harris CapRock? in summary?
So our new solution has provided a wide range of benefits that span process improvements, time savings, and improving the accuracy of our data. So our tools now match the existing processes. There's no more fighting with tools that don't match processes. As processes change, we have been able to map changes directly in sequence kinetics. We're finding that our execution is more streamlined in that everybody knows what task belongs to what organization and specifically what person. And I know it may sound trivial, but the ability to update and manage our forms and tickets on the fly has been a huge benefit in an environment where technology changes constantly.
Okay, well, I want to thank you very much for that overview of the project, and it sounds great. So I'm happy that it's going well. And now, actually, we're going to go to an interview that I did earlier with Mark Rausch, who is the Director of Applications Development at Harris CapRock, for a look on the flip side, which is the development side of this project, and really how low-code BPM applies to it. So if you just bear with me for 1 second, and we will start into that interview right now.
What was it like to create the solution in Sequence?
There are some complex and time-consuming tasks that Sequence makes very easy and allows a developer to complete in very little time. Our team consists of experienced .NET developers, so that made some of the tasks even easier. PNMsoft made the product easy to use for inexperienced users, though. But understanding web application development and the different types of form fields, field validators, user controls, and the like makes forms development in Sequence easier and shortens the learning curve. Sequence has a very flexible workflow design tool. It contains various controls like forms and messages, tasks, which are added to the workflow graphically, as you would do in Microsoft Visio, which is another design tool that we use here and the team has some experience with. Okay. Sequence's integration with SharePoint is another great feature which helps pull the application all together very easily. Many times during our workflows, it's necessary to send out an email to someone, letting them know that a task is ready for their attention or that one of the workflows they start is completed. Creating messages that users can see within the application or having those messages sent to an individual's email or to a group of emails is so simple to do in Sequence. Formatting the email, creating the content, including specific fields and information from the workflow, either in the subject or the body of the email, is very simple to do.
So would you say that low-code BPM would apply to Sequence?
Yeah, I think there's so many tasks that you can perform even without creating any code at all. Creating forms, placing fields on the forms, changing the look and feel of the forms, all these things are done without writing any code. Dropping the correct type of field on the form allows you to ensure that the user must enter a date or a number without any coding. Similarly, making the field required or optional is all handled using drag and drop and without any code. And as I said before, creating a workflow is done in a similar manner as documenting a workflow in Visio or another graphics tool. So creating tasks and branching workflows, creating decision points in your workflows is almost as easy as dragging the tools off the toolbox onto the workspace and connecting them. For most situations, when code is required, like when you need to create the conditions for a workflow splitting down 1 to 2 paths, the amount of code is minimal, and the tool helps you to create the code by allowing the user to choose from existing built-in functions and the form fields that have already been placed on the forms.
Now, is it easy to make changes to the solution once it goes live?
Well, of course, the complexity of the change is based on the specific business need, but there are so many different types of changes that can be accomplished in literally less than 10 minutes. Adding a new field to a form, ensuring the field is in a specific format, making the field required, those are all trivial tasks. And changing the order of the workflow's tasks, making changes to the content of email messages, changing the recipients of email messages, all these tasks can usually be completed in a matter of minutes. Even adding new tasks to an existing workflow is easy.
Great. And how quickly did your team learn to use Sequence?
We had asked PNMsoft to send one of their trainers to train our team on our premises, and we were lucky to have Shlomo Steinmetz visit us for a week. While he was training our team, we also asked him to suggest ways of handling the real-life tasks we knew we needed Sequence to help us complete. Shlomo was happy to spend as much time as we needed to look at different ways of doing things, and he even tailored some of the training to our specific needs. After he left us, there were still things we needed to learn, things that you can't really know until you've experienced them yourself. But in a short period of time, we were very comfortable in the tool.
Okay, and we're back. So I guess I want to thank Mark Rausch for that. That was great. And now we're going to go actually to a live demo of Sequence and the low-code BPM capabilities of Sequence with James Luxford, who's our CTO here. Before we do that, I just want to reach out and say, please enter your questions into the GoToWebinar questions widget. I also want to ask our tech person if everything is okay on the audio end. Vasilios, are you able to confirm that you're hearing everything correctly? Okay. We'll just wait for a second for that.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so now we're going to go to a demo of Sequence Intelligent BPM Suite. Bear with me for that as well.
Studio. You've already seen a screenshot of this. We've placed some swim lanes on here. I'm going to add some activities, some steps in the process, starting with a form, and with just clicking on it, I can just drag and drop the items into the appropriate place and create my process diagram. We'll have a decision point in here where I can decide which route I'm going to take in my process, and then we'll just simply have a couple of messages. Depending on a threshold, we'll either send a notification to a set of recipients, or we'll send a notification to an approving manager. And we can join our process together. All very easy to do. And down here, and then once we've modeled the process and we're happy with the process, the key here is we can configure this working with the business and business analyst to decide on what the process is going to be. Everyone can understand how it's going to be. We don't have to interpret lines of code. It's all very clear how the process is going to flow. Then we need to fill in the details behind here. So we're going to start off with a form. So it's going to be a simple request form. We'll put a few fields on here, but here we'll see how we can create rich forms without needing to write code. So this is my request form. And you can create sets of templates, standard layouts of forms with standard corporate look and feel on. That means that everyone, when they create forms, they all look the same, they all follow the appropriate standards. And also it's very quick to get that first pass of the form. So here we have our form, and we can just start adding some fields to this form, the information that we're going to collect from our user, starting with a name. And each control that we add to the field, to the form, very easy to then be able to just connect this into the process data model. We don't need to worry about creating any databases. We don't need to worry about DBA. We can do it all through our wizard. So we've got a name, and then perhaps we'll just have request. And we make the request a text box as well. And again, we just go through and we just add in the names of our fields that we want in here, so request. And this information can be used later in the process, as you'll see. And we can configure these forms as much as we want. This is obviously a very simple form. Let's have the value of our request. And we're going to use our numeric text box for this, because it's a value that we want to put in here. And Sequence knows, because it's the numeric text box, to make it a whole number. Just make life as easy as possible for us. And finally, we should put a date in. Very powerful form editor. You can create extremely rich forms. I'm just doing a fairly simple form here, but hopefully you'll appreciate the power. Here we're going to have request date. And for each field, we can actually set default values if we wish. Over here, just using simple little commands such as now. We'll set that to the current date. So that's my field created very quickly. I'll just save that form away. We'll then have a little look at the business rule that we have in here. It's going to decide which route we take. And we're going to call this threshold. Is it over the threshold? And if it is over the threshold, also, in fact, in this case, now we're going to do it under threshold. Sorry, just excuse me there. Going slightly off brief. And in here, we can put a business rule that decides which route we're going to take. Again, I don't need to write any lines of code. And threshold. Oops. Spelling's not very good today. And here I have my process data model. All of those fields that we're entering as we're building up this process are available to me just to click on and be able to use in business rules. And we'll see these used in messages later. And I can put a simple expression, say, is this less than 500? Of course, that could be a lookup value returned from a web service. But here we're just putting the value of 500 just to demonstrate the concept. And now from here we want to create our messages. Let's create the happy message first, where if it's under the threshold. So just simple notification message to a team. And with a message can be received in our portal and email on smartphones in many different ways. We can have content from the process in both the subject and the body. And again, here we can now see my process data model. Please note the following request has been submitted. And here we can include the information about the particular request, such as, in fact, let's say requester. And from my process model, I can just select those fields. Here we go. All those fields are available to me here. Oops. Request. We'll have value. And of course the dates. We can include lots of information so the user knows exactly what is going on. And I can reuse this information. I can copy this and we can have a look at using that a little later on. I can decide who the recipients are going to be as well. So in this case, it's going to be, we're going to send this to a team, say a service management team. And within the org structure, we've got all of our teams here. So we can just select a team, and this will now send that message to everyone within that team. All very simple to achieve. And I can do the same with the message for the approver. So here's going to be slightly different message. And in this case, we're going to send it to a manager. Please note. And I've copied all the information earlier, so very simple to be able to reuse information from one part of sequence to another. And in this case, rather than sending it to a team, I can send it to what we call a process role. In here, we don't necessarily know who created the request. We don't need to worry about that. What we just need to do is just say, I want to send this to the manager of the person that created this. Sequence will do all of the rest for me. Very simple to do. Just give it a name, manager notification over here. and alias. And we're almost done now. We just need to set some permissions. I'm just going to give myself permissions for this for the moment. We go full control on the process. I do it full control while I'm testing my process. I can test the process in this environment using the Sequence Process Lab, our debug tool. I can start a new instance, and this allows them to be able to step through the process, action each step, and be able to see exactly how the process is performing. So this is something that you could be doing with the business user sitting next to you while the business analyst is making the changes to the process. So here we have our form. I'm going to fill it in. James request, new request. First time the value is going to be 600. There you can see we've already put the date in automatically. We could put the name in and lots of other information. And I click submit. Sequence will now decide what needs to happen. If we have a look back at the process, we can see it's come here, it's calculated the threshold, and it's decided it is not under the threshold, it's over the threshold, it's 600. So it's come straight down here, and it's sent a message to the manager. Because I'm in test mode, I can now roll this back and just test the other path, just to see what happens. So let's have a little look at the output. Let's change that to 400. I could submit the request, and now it's gone to the service management team. Everyone in that team has received the notification, and the current workflow has successfully completed because we've reached the endpoint over here. Okay, so I've shown you how we can build a business process application without having to write code, a low-code application. I'm now going to enhance this with some capabilities that you would almost expect to have to write some code with. I'm going to create a mobile form so we can mobilize this particular application. I'm going to call out to a web service to get a dynamic value that we're going to use in our threshold here. And I'm also going to create a dashboard using our dashboard wizard. So let's have a look at how we can create these. First of all, mobile forms. We don't need to create another application. We don't need to create another step in the process. I just need to add a mobile view excuse me, to my form activity here. So if I open it up again, here's the view that we will get by default. To create a mobile view, I just select New, click Mobile View, and click OK. I've already defined the data model for this particular form, so Sequence can take that and it can create automatically a mobile view in a layout that is more suitable for the smaller screens that you have on phones. There we go. And when I use the Sequence Process to Go mobile portal, this is the form that will now be surfaced. Very easy to achieve. Web services. Let's look at how we can pull out a value from an ERP system, for instance, to use in our low-code application. So I'm going to connect to a web service using our web service consumer activity. I select that from my palette. Configuring it is through the wizard. I've already connected to a web service. Once you've connected to a web service once in Sequence, you don't need to do it again. It'll be in this list here. I select the web service I'm interested in. Sequence will tell me what is available. I'm going to select Get Approval Threshold, and then Sequence will tell me what input parameters are required. And I can then map fields from my process into that web service call, just as I have done with messages with business rules. That's now connected to the web service. That's all that I need to do. But of course, I now want to, first of all, link it into my process. So let's change my process and reconnect. And I now want to use that value in my business rule. So let's go back into here and change that rule. Rather than hard-coded 500, I can use the value that's returned from that web service. So there I've both connected to a web service and used the value that's coming back from that web service in my process without having to write any lines of code. So finally, let's have a look. We've created a process here. Of course, part of automating a process is being able to see what information comes out of it, presenting, managing information, intelligent analytics to the end users. Sequence provides a very nice analytics dashboard wizard that allows them to be able to create dashboards very quickly and easily. Again, of course, without writing lines of code. I can create as many of these for a process, and it's a simple 5-step process. I won't go through every step here, but the first step that I need to do is select, well, which fields am I interested in from my process. And just as I've done before, for my data model, I can select all of those fields that I'm interested in from wherever I'm collecting them, including from our web service, for instance, if I want to. I can filter that data. I can add dimensions that allows me to slice and dice the data later on. I can add KPI bandings to that data as well. But today I'm just going to show you how we can then create a visual, a chart from that. So for instance, one example, we may want to include a line chart of requests by date, for instance. I just select horizontal category, which is of course going to be our date. I can decide how that's going to be presented. And then name the count, how many different people we have requesting each day, for instance. Lots of options, lots of different types of charts that I can create, but that's all that I need to do to then be able to save it, and I can now publish this. Of course, we create lots of visuals here, but once we come to publish it, we have lots of different layouts that allows us to be able to select a particular layout, choose the visuals, how they are presented in that layout, and publish. And that's then available to our end users to be able to then look to see what's going on within their particular processes. I won't publish it today. I just want to give you a quick flavour for what is involved in creating analytics dashboards. So just very quickly to recap, we've created an application that allows us to submit requests, to send notifications to people, to consume web services, work on mobiles, have business rules, lots of capabilities within there without writing any lines of code. Lots more that you can do with Sequence. Of course, if you want to get into code, there's always situations, the key is low code, not no code. There's always situations that you may need to write some code, get your IT department to do that. Sequence supports that as well. But the key is low code. You don't have to write much code to be able to create your business process application. Okay, so that's enough for me. I'll now hand back to Ellie, and he'll look at answering any questions that you may have submitted via the GoToMeeting question widget. Okay, thanks, Ellie.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank James Luxford, James, for that great demo. And we're just a few minutes before the end of the hour here, so just not much time for questions. We had a couple questions. One about, does Sequence support deadlines? And the answer is absolutely. Sequence has very powerful capabilities around tasks, queues, reminders, deadlines, due dates, and both that are very configurable within our App Studio, and which are very visible in the which are very visible in the end user interface. Another question we had is, does Sequence support BPMN 2.0? The answer is yes. So we actually have a few more questions, but since we're really at the end of the hour, I'd encourage you to send them to myself, les@pnmsoft.com, and we'll definitely field them. So just to summarize the benefits of low-code BPM, rapid creation of workflow applications, collaboration between different stakeholders, business and IT, on critical business applications, lower costs, faster development, easier maintenance, and quicker changes, fewer errors, easier upgrades, smaller teams, and shorter projects. So those are just some of the benefits. I guess we've been through the questions and answers. So these are some of our customers, just a kind of sampling here. And we're very, very proud to work with some of the greatest corporations in the world. And if you are interested in starting your BPM journey, low-code BPM journey, quick development of BPM, intelligent BPM applications, we encourage you to contact us. We have really the top success rate of BPM projects in the business, so we'll be very happy to work with you. And you can request a demo of Sequence BPM by emailing info@pnmsoft.com. You can fill out a form on our website, www.pnmsoft.com, or contact us at the numbers below. We'll be providing this set of slides after the webinar for those of you who may have missed some of it. I want to thank Clay Richardson of Forrester, Mindy Foyer and Mark Rausch of Harris CapRock, and James Luxford, our CTO, for being a special guest at this webinar. I want to thank you, the audience. I want to thank our technician, Vasilios, who's actually our marketing manager as well, for helping out. And thank all of you for being with us. So stay tuned for more webinars. We have a great schedule of webinars coming up, so you can just check out our website for that. And until next time, this is Ellie Stutz from PNMsoft signing off. Thank you very much.
Thank you.